sky me, where brains go to broadcast.
What if everything you write, from a simple grocery list all the way to a big research paper, what if it's actually an argument? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that idea. We're going to try and uncover the often hidden persuasive side of all writing.
Yeah.
We're digging into some excerpts about research writing and argument to explore how we, maybe without even knowing it, try to persuade and influence our readers pretty much every time we put words down.
Right. And our mission for you today really is to fundamentally redefine what argument even means.
Okay.
We want to move past just thinking about formal debates or, those heated fights.
Yeah, the winner-loser thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The goal is to show how truly understanding rhetoric, this ancient, powerful art of persuasion, can actually transform how you tackle any writing task, can make your ideas so much more impactful, way more engaging, and just incredibly effective.
Okay, let's dive into that, because
Yeah.
there's this common misconception, isn't there? We tend to split writing into argumentative, the controversial topics where you're taking a stand, and then non-argumentative, like stories or technical reports, maybe news articles.
Right, just the facts. Or so we think.
Exactly. But here's where our source material really pushes back. Traditionally, argumentative writing is seen as proving one side right in a debate, like someone wins.
Yeah.
And non-argumentative stuff is just information, no persuasion needed.
But that's where research writing often gets stuck.
That's the problem. It gets mislabeled as non-argumentative. We're taught it's all about gathering info, note cards, citations.
The mechanics.
Yeah, the mechanics. Not about crafting a compelling viewpoint for a real person to read or making your ideas actually persuade someone. Our sources point out that, beginning writers often get bogged down in the rule.
Like citation styles.
Right. Instead of thinking about how to make their ideas truly land with impact.
That's such a critical point. And it forces us to ask, well, what if we reframe argument? What if it's not just a verbal battle?
Yeah.
What if instead it's an opening? An opportunity for a real conversation, a chance to share your perspective, connect with how others see things, and maybe just explain your worldview.
A different way of seeing it.
Yeah, the source material puts it so well. It's the opposite of beating your audience into rhetorical submission. It implies something more like gentle explanation, persuasion through understanding.
I like that. So how does that look in practice?
Well, arguments tend to show up in two main ways. You've got your explicit arguments.
Okay.
These are the ones with a really clear signposted thesis statement and specific points laid out as proof. Boom, there it is.
Hard to miss.
Right. But then you have implicit arguments.
Ah, the subtle ones.
Exactly. They don't hit you over the head with a one-sentence thesis. They're more like weavers. They subtly combine facts and stories, logic and emotion, maybe personal experiences and statistics, all to build a particular point of view.
Interesting.
And for both kinds, explicit and implicit, solid research is absolutely fundamental. You need that foundation.
And once you start looking for these implicit arguments, they really are everywhere, aren't they? Often in places you wouldn't expect.
Totally.
The source material gives some great examples, like imagine scientists publishing findings, but the data could actually point in two different directions.
Happens all the time.
Well, both papers they write, arguing for their interpretation. Those are arguments.
Absolutely. Based on the same data, but arguing different conclusions.
Or think about a memoir writer. Maybe they choose to leave out certain events from their life story.
Selective memory.
Yeah. That choice, that omission, that can be an implicit argument about, say, their relationship with their parents,
Yeah.
even if they never state it outright.
It shapes the narrative, shapes the reader's understanding. It's an argument through curation.
Or the travel writer example in National Geographic observing melting ice in Antarctica.
Yeah.
They might not have a big "we must act now" section.
And direct call to action.
But just presenting that compelling evidence, showing the ice melting faster, that itself is a powerful argument about climate change, right?
Definitely. The evidence makes the argument. Or think about a historical novelist.
Oh, yeah.
They recreate historical figures, but they add fictional details, maybe inner thoughts or dialogue.
Right, to make the story work.
But in doing so, they're promoting a certain interpretation of history, a specific viewpoint. It's this blend of representation and, well, subtle argument.
Wow. So, yeah, it really does seem like argument is just woven into almost everything we write and read.
It really is. And what's fascinating is that the whole art of crafting these arguments effectively, It's been studied and systematized for centuries by this discipline called rhetoric.
Okay, rhetoric.
It's essentially about making informed strategic choices when you write.
Now, we kind of have to address the elephant in the room because rhetoric often gets such a bad rap today, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In everyday talk, it's often used negatively. People think it means like deception or just verbal fluff.
Empty words,
Yeah.
spin.
Exactly. Or even that it's the opposite of truth.
And the source gives examples of this, right?
It does. Really concrete ones. Like back in 2003, a CNN article talked about North Korea's rhetorical blast, basically implying it was all noise and no substance.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's that website, Spinsanity, Countering Rhetoric with Reason. The very title sets up rhetoric as spin that needs to be countered by reason.
Pitting them against each other.
Right. And maybe the most ironic one is a YouTube video criticizing Barack Obama's 2008 campaign for having too much rhetoric.
Oh, the irony.
Totally. Because, as the source points out, the person making that video, they were absolutely engaging in rhetoric themselves. They had a purpose, an audience, a context.
You can't escape it.
Pretty much impossible not to use it when you communicate with intent.
That's such a key distinction, and it leads us somewhere really interesting. Despite how we misuse the word now, rhetoric is actually this incredibly ancient art form with really deep historical roots.
Goes way back.
Yeah. Thinkers like Aristotle. He defined rhetoric as the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion.
Finding the best way to make your point in that specific situation.
Exactly. He saw it as a practical tool, essential for civic life, for how people talk and make decisions together.
And then you have Plato.
Right, another giant. He saw rhetoric a bit differently, more as a way to discover truth.
Through dialogue.
Yeah, through dialogue. And interestingly, it could be directed outward to persuade others, or even inward, like a process of self-discovery.
Huh. Finding personal truth through rhetoric.
Kind of cool, right? And we can't forget the sophists.
Ah, the traveling teacher.
Yeah, basically teachers for hire in ancient Greece, teaching skills for effective speaking and writing. Their legacy is a bit mixed.
A bit controversial.
For sure. Some people accuse them of teaching people how to twist things, maybe bend ethics a bit.
Win at all costs.
But others saw them as crucial for democracy, teaching ordinary citizens how to speak up and participate effectively. Kind of like the first communication coaches, maybe. For better or worse.
That historical view is so important because it connects directly to writers today.
Yeah.
So many people struggle with writing assignments, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And often it's because they haven't quite figured out the writing's purpose or who they're actually writing for, the audience.
It makes sense. I mean, think about research. You don't just research for the sake of it, do you?
Never. There's always a reason. You're researching which car to buy because you need transport. You research apartments because you need somewhere to live. You research vacations because you want a good trip.
There's always a goal.
Always a purpose. That's a rhetorical situation playing out right there in everyday life.
And that leads us perfectly into the core elements of what rhetoricians actually call the rhetorical situation. It's often shown as that triangle, you know. You've got the communicator, the writer, the audience, the reader, and the message itself, the text.
And they're all connected, interacting dynamically. You need all three for communication to actually work.
So let's break down that triangle. What are the key bits we need to get?
Well, first corner, maybe the most fundamental. Purpose.
Why are you writing?
Exactly. Good writing always has a purpose. Are you trying to persuade someone, entertain them, inform them, instruct them? Often it's actually a blend of these.
Right.
But you absolutely have to understand, or at least consciously define, what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, purpose first. Then, equally important, who are you talking to? The audience.
Indispensable. You need a really clear picture of your readers. What's their background? What do they already know? Do they have biases? What are they expecting from this piece of writing?
And knowing that helps you choose.
Everything.
Yeah.
Your style, the tone you adopt, even the medium. Is this an email, a formal report, a blog post? It all depends on who you're trying to reach.
Makes sense. And the third point of the triangle.
Context, right? The occasion.
Spot on. Writers never operate in a vacuum.
What's happening in society, the cultural mood, even your personal situation, all of it heavily influences the writing. The content, the form, how it's going to be received. It touches everything from picking your topic to how you structure your argument.
And there's that cool Greek term related to occasion, kairos.
Yes, kairos. Such a great concept. It means the right or opportune moment for making an argument.
Timing is everything.
Basically, yeah. If the moment is right, if things happening in society make your audience particularly receptive to your message, your argument just has a much better chance of landing successfully.
Like the example from the source.
Exactly. It mentions the really intense debates around the war on terrorism and the U.S. presidential election back in 2008.
Okay.
Well-written pieces on those topics. They weren't going to fall on deaf ears because public interest was sky high. People were already deeply engaged. That was the perfect tyros for those discussions.
Got it. So we understand the situation, purpose, audience, occasion. How do writers actually persuade within that situation?
The tools of the trade.
Yeah. Aristotle, he identified three main types of proofs, or what we call rhetorical appeals. He argued you really need to use them together for writing or speaking to be truly effective. And you'll definitely recognize these. First up, logos, the logical appeal.
Right. This is all about facts, data, statistics, logical reasoning, solid examples. Academic writing often puts a huge emphasis on logos, trying to be objective and evidence-based.
Makes sense for academia. Then there's pathos.
The emotional appeal. This is about connecting with your audience's feelings, evoking an appropriate emotional response.
Which people sometimes feel weird about.
Yeah, the source notes people can be a bit sheepish about acknowledging that their opinions can be affected by their emotions. But honestly, pathetic proofs aren't just allowed. They're often essential for making a connection.
How do you do that?
Well, even something as basic as using vivid descriptions can be a really powerful way to tap into pathos. Painting a picture with words.
Okay. And the third appeal, this one feels really important, ethos.
Crucial. Ethos is the ethical appeal, which basically boils down to credibility.
Your character as the writer.
Exactly. How do you come across? Do you sound knowledgeable? Fair. Trustworthy. The source really emphasizes that doing your research thoroughly and using it well is a major way you build your ethos.
Shows you've done your homework.
Precisely. It demonstrates you know what you're talking about, that you respect the topic and the audience enough to be well-informed. It builds that essential trust.
And the big takeaway here is that you can't just pick one appeal, right? They work together.
Absolutely. It's a dynamic combination. They're deeply interwoven. Trying to separate them completely is really difficult. And frankly, arguments that lean too heavily on just one or two while ignoring the others, they often just fall flat. They don't resonate fully.
Can we see that in those political ad examples?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah.
Think about Hillary Clinton's Scranton ad from 2008 that the source mentions.
Okay.
Very heavy on pathos, right? Lots of warm, nostalgic childhood memories, that feeling of connection to place.
Yeah, very emotional.
But the source suggests it was maybe a bit thin on logos, not many concrete policy steps or details about what she would do, and that imbalance potentially could have affected her ethos, her credibility as a serious policy leader for some viewers.
Interesting. And Obama's ad, the one voice one.
Similar dynamic in a way, also very heavy on pathos, that powerful, uplifting call to change the world, full of hope.
Very inspiring.
Hugely inspiring. But again, maybe lighter on the logos, the specific how-to of changing the world. However, in his case, that very powerful call for change and hope became a massive part of his ethos.
So the pathos reinforced the ethos in his case.
You could argue that, yeah.
Yeah.
His persona as a transformative figure was built partly on that emotional appeal. It really shows how these appeals interact in complex ways and how the balance matters.
Okay, this is all fascinating. Let's shift to another really big idea from the source material. This concept of writing as a fundamentally social process.
Crucial concept.
Texts aren't just created in isolation. They're made to be read by other people. That makes writing inherently interactive, doesn't it? Like a conversation, a real meeting of minds.
Absolutely. And there's a famous analogy that captures this beautifully.
Dennis Burke's parlor.
That's the one. Kenneth Burke, a major 20th century rhetorician, he asks you to imagine entering a parlor, like a living room discussion. You arrive late. Others have been there long before you, and they're already deep in a heated discussion.
Right, you've missed the beginning.
Totally. They're too involved to stop and fill you in properly. In fact, the discussion started long before any of them even got there.
So it's an ongoing thing.
Exactly. So what do? You listen for a while, you try to get the gist of the argument, and then eventually you put in your oar. You add your point.
You join the conversation.
You join in. Someone might answer you directly. Someone else might jump in to defend you. Another person might argue against you.
It keeps going.
It's interminable, Burke says. The hour gets late, you eventually have to leave. And as you depart, the discussion is still going strong.
Wow. That's a powerful image.
Isn't it? It perfectly illustrates this continuous, ongoing nature of conversation, of intellectual exchange. Every time you write something, you're essentially stepping into that parlor, joining a conversation already in progress.
So you're never really starting from a blank slate.
Never. That's the implication. Writers always tap into the resources of their community for ideas, for background information, for research leads, for knowing what the current debates are.
Our knowledge isn't just individual, it's shaped by these ongoing conversations.
Precisely. It's shaped by the consensus that gets reached within different communities, whether that's scientists debating a theory, lawyers interpreting a statute, or even, fans discussing a movie online.
Even science. You might think scientific proof is just proof.
Well, yes and no. Even experimentally proven theories, backed by tons of data, don't truly become accepted knowledge until the majority of the relevant scientific community, and often society more broadly, actually discusses, assimilates, and accepts them.
That's a big claim. Is there an example?
The classic, powerful example is Copernicus and Galileo.
Challenging the idea that the Earth was the center of the universe.
Exactly. They had mathematical proofs, observational evidence for the heliocentric model, the sun at the center.
But people didn't just immediately say, okay, you're right.
Not at all. Despite their proofs, the heliocentric theory wasn't widely accepted for a long, long time. It took generations for the idea to really penetrate the fabric of social discourse, as the source puts it.
So even hard evidence needs to be argued for, discussed, and socially accepted.
That's what history suggests. New findings, new ideas, they have to enter the conversation, be debated, and eventually win acceptance within the community. It's a social process as much as an intellectual one.
So bringing it all together, what does this mean for us as writers or just as people communicating?
It means every time you write, you're not just broadcasting information into the void.
You're stepping into that parlor.
You're stepping into the parlor. You're building on what others have said. You're responding to existing ideas, and you're contributing your voice to an ongoing exchange. It's dynamic. It's connected.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive has really, really shown us that pretty much every piece of writing, doesn't matter if it's simple or complex, it's a rhetorical act. It's an opportunity to influence, to persuade, to connect.
Absolutely. It's so much more than just transmitting data from point A to point B.
So understanding your purpose, really knowing your audience, grasping the occasion, the context.
And knowing how to skillfully combine those appeals, logos, pathos, and ethos.
That's what changes everything.
That's what genuinely transforms your writing. It takes it from being just, information dumped on a page into something truly powerful, engaging, and ultimately impactful. A real contribution to that ongoing conversation we talked about.
And it means becoming a writer who doesn't just, follow the instructions or fill in the blanks on an assignment,
Right.
but someone who learns to actually define their own purpose, understand their specific audience, and grasp the unique context they're writing in.
It gives you agency as a writer, real control over your communication.
Exactly. So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away from all this. How might consciously viewing your next email or that report you have to write, or even just your next social media post, viewing it as an argument in this bigger, broader sense we've discussed today about sharing your perspective and connecting with others, how might that fundamentally change how you approach writing it?
And what difference might that make to the impact it actually has?
Something to think about.
Cascade me where brains go to broadcast. Cascade me, knowledge speaks, tuition sleeps.